The sky was calm for just a moment before the first signal appeared, a blip on the radar systems of Earth's defense satellites. It was small but unmistakable, a craft unlike any human-made object flashing across space at incredible speed. As the object grew closer, the alarm systems went into full alert. Military bases across the world began receiving scrambled messages from a wide array of military units, all unable to make sense of what was happening at first. No one could comprehend what they were seeing. Strange shapes and flickering lights filled the skies as massive ships emerged from the blackness of space. The air seemed to thrum with an unnatural energy. The ships were like nothing Earth had ever encountered. Their hulls gleamed with an almost imperceptible sheen, and their engines hummed with a low vibration that made the hairs on the back of the neck stand on end. Global governments scrambled into action as they tried to decipher the intentions of the visitors. Some thought it was a misunderstanding, a failed test of some new human technology. Others suggested that it might be an invitation to join some galactic alliance. At first, the world's leaders were hopeful. They wanted to believe that this was the moment of first contact, that humanity would take its place among the stars. But then the first transmission came, a message not meant for Earth's leaders, but for the people of Earth. As a fleet of ships settled into low orbit above major cities, their massive shadows stretching across the land, a voice boomed through every communication channel, a voice cold and unfeeling. "We, the Galactic Council, have come to lay claim to this world. Your species has been deemed a threat to galactic peace and will be eradicated. Prepare yourselves for the dawn of your extinction." Humanity's collective heart skipped a beat. Then panic set in as massive ships deployed their forces across the planet. Fear spread like wildfire. The skies, filled with enemy craft and ground forces, began to march across the city. Soldiers with weapons that made Earth's best look primitive. Strange creatures in armored exosuits trampled through streets as they wiped out any resistance. Within moments, entire nations were in chaos. But Earth was not one to surrender easily. Even in the face of such overwhelming force, there was something inside humanity that refused to bend, no matter how great the threat. In the heart of every city, from the bustling streets of New York to the quiet villages of the African plains, people began to fight back. They grabbed anything they could use, from weapons in military bases to tools in garages. Every individual, regardless of background, gender, or age, took to the streets to defend their homes. Some built makeshift barricades out of debris and scrap metal. Others used old military strategies and tactics handed down through generations. The military leaders across the world had been preparing for a time like this, but they had never imagined facing an invasion from another world. Still, their training kicked in, and soon a unified front was formed. Even in the face of total annihilation, Earth's people stood tall. As the first human resistance groups launched their attacks, they quickly realized that the enemy was far more advanced than they could have ever imagined. Alien technology tore through their forces with terrifying precision. But even with these odds against them, humans did not falter. They used the terrain to their advantage, setting traps, ambushing alien units, and in some cases even hijacking alien equipment and repurposing it to their advantage. Though the weapons were strange and dangerous, they learned quickly how to turn the tables on their invaders. The battle had only just begun, and the world watched in disbelief as the underdogs fought back against an empire that had no reason to expect anything other than easy victory. But humanity was not going to make it easy for them. The resistance grew stronger with each passing day as humans, fueled by desperation and an unwavering will to survive, began to find their rhythm in the chaos. Their strikes became more coordinated, and their tactics bolder. What started as small skirmishes in the streets soon turned into full-blown operations against the alien invaders. People from all walks of life set aside their differences and united under a single cause to defend their homeworld from an enemy they could not yet fully understand. In every corner of Earth, small groups of civilians joined forces with military units. Some had been soldiers in their past lives, while others were simple farmers, doctors, engineers, even children who had learned to fight in the face of this new and terrifying reality. There were no rules, no boundaries, just pure survival. Each group was as unique as the next, but all shared a common goal: to push the invaders off their planet. The makeshift weapons they wielded ranged from homemade explosives to stolen alien firearms, as they fought with a ferocity the invaders had never encountered. As cities crumbled under the weight of alien occupation, the resistance fought back in ways that could only be described as unorthodox yet effective guerrilla tactics. Became the heart of the human effort. Small units of resistance fighters would infiltrate alien strongholds, sabotage critical infrastructure, and then vanish into the shadows before the invaders could retaliate. The enemy was relentless, and their technology far beyond anything humanity had ever known. But the more they pushed forward, the more they began to notice something strange. The humans were learning, quickly adapting to their superior technology in ways that were almost impossible to predict. Alien commanders began to report back to the Galactic Council, expressing confusion and frustration at how quickly Earth's forces were evolving. The Resistance's greatest asset was its unpredictability. The alien forces had underestimated the creativity of humanity. They expected an easy victory, a swift conquest, but what they faced instead were countless individuals thinking outside the box, coming up with solutions that no one could have predicted. Humans began to use the alien technology against them in ingenious ways, hacking into their systems and turning their own weapons against them. Some of the most daring attacks involved using alien ships' energy against their own forces. When they took control of the alien ships, they turned them into weapons of mass destruction, launching surprise attacks on the invaders' supply lines. While the Council's leaders scratched their heads trying to understand how Earth's forces were so adaptable, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. Back in the alien motherships, the mood among the invaders was one of increasing unease. Commanders struggled to keep up with the shifting tactics of the humans. Reports came in faster than they could process. A growing number of alien ships were disabled or destroyed by human ingenuity, and soon entire sectors of Earth's cities had been liberated. The once feared alien fleet began to retreat under the pressure of humanity's relentless resistance. On the ground, stories of human bravery spread like wildfire across the planet. People who had never known the meaning of warfare now fought alongside soldiers from every nation. The battle was no longer just about survival. It was about proving that humanity would never be conquered. The invaders had expected a world of easy prey, but they were wrong. The more they pushed forward, the more they realized that Earth had something they could never take into account: an unbreakable will to fight back, no matter the odds. And all the while the Galactic Council watched from the shadows, unable to believe the unfolding events as humans continued to defy their expectations. The tide of war had shifted in ways that left the invaders scrambling to keep control across Earth. Entire regions that were once considered lost to them were being reclaimed by the human resistance. With each passing day, the once unthinkable seemed possible. Entire cities that had fallen to the alien forces were retaken, and every victory gave Earth's fighters more confidence, as if their very will to resist had become a weapon in itself. The invaders responded with brutal force, yet even that seemed to have its limits. Earth's relentless counterattacks forced the aliens to reconsider their strategy. The Galactic Council, which had originally viewed Earth as a minor nuisance, began to panic at the unexpected turn of events. The first reports of alien losses were trickling in from across the planet, and each report was more staggering than the last. Alien command ships had been disabled by human ingenuity. Civilian groups were bringing down enemy fighters with stolen weapons. Entire alien squads had been ambushed and wiped out by guerrilla units who moved like shadows. The Council had anticipated a short-lived conflict, a few weeks at most, and then the Earth would fall. But humanity had thrown that prediction out the window. They weren't just surviving, they were winning. The Galactic Council called an emergency session to discuss the rapidly deteriorating situation. Some of the council members were already calling for a complete retreat from Earth, but others were more aggressive and demanded a new plan to crush the humans once and for all. As the debate raged on, the weight of their failure began to sink in. The Council's confidence in their superiority had been shattered by the actions of a species they had written off as primitive and weak. They had underestimated humanity's resourcefulness and spirit, and now they were paying the price. Among the members of the council, some started to voice a more cautious approach, suggesting that a peace offering might be the only way to avoid further losses after all humanity's resilience had proven far more formidable than any of them had expected. It wasn't just their military tactics that impressed the alien leaders. It was their sheer will to survive, their unwillingness to be subdued despite overwhelming odds. Yet other factions in the council rejected this idea outright and began calling for the deployment of their most advanced weapons to break humanity's spirit once and for all. In the midst of this turmoil back on Earth, the human resistance was gaining momentum with each day. It became clearer that the invaders were no longer fighting for victory. They were fighting to survive, a desperate effort to reclaim what they had lost. But humanity was not ready to let them off the hook. Not yet. The fight had become more than just a battle for survival. It was a battle for the future of Earth itself. Dr. Evelyn Knox, a brilliant scientist and one of the key members of Earth's resistance, began to uncover something that could change the course of the war. A series of alien communication signals intercepted from deep space hinted at a weakness in the alien fleet. Their technology was highly advanced, but it was not invulnerable, and Dr. Knox believed she had found a way to exploit it. If she could successfully hack into the aliens' energy systems and transmit a destabilizing signal, it could potentially disable their ships on a massive scale. But she knew it would be risky. It would require all of Earth's remaining resources to carry out this operation, and even if successful, there was no guarantee the alien forces wouldn't retaliate with even more devastating measures. The stakes had never been higher for humanity. Every decision was now a life-or-death gamble. Yet one thing was certain: Earth was no longer a planet under siege. It was a planet that was fighting back with everything it had, and the invaders were beginning to realize just how much humanity was capable of. Dr. Evelyn Knox sat hunched over her console in a hidden underground facility, her eyes flickering between streams of data, her fingers moving at a speed that matched the intensity of her thoughts. She had spent weeks analyzing the alien signals intercepted from their communication network, and what she had uncovered was a breakthrough that could turn the tide of the entire war. The alien technology was formidable, no doubt, but like all advanced systems, it had its vulnerabilities: a flaw in their energy grid, a specific frequency that could disrupt their power systems. If targeted with precision, Knox had found the frequency that could destabilize their ship shields and rendering their devastating weaponry useless. It was a gamble, but if successful, it could knock out the entire alien fleet in one fell swoop. She called her team together. The group was small but efficient, made up of the best minds Earth had to offer: engineers, physicists, and military strategists. They worked in silence as the plan took shape. They would need to hack into the alien network without alerting the enemy, and once they had access, they would have to transmit the destabilizing signal directly into the heart of the fleet's core systems. It was dangerous work, but the stakes had never been higher. If they could pull this off, the alien ships that had once seemed invincible could be reduced to mere husks floating aimlessly in space. Outside the underground facility, the resistance had been quietly preparing for a larger offensive. The alien forces had been struggling to maintain control of Earth's cities and territories. They had been caught off guard by the relentless counterattacks from human guerrilla units, and were now being forced to defend their positions on multiple fronts. But despite the setbacks, the alien commanders knew their victory was still possible. It would just require more firepower, more reinforcements, and the swift application of their most advanced weapons to break the spirit of Earth's fighters. But that would take time, and as they prepared their next move, they could feel the pressure mounting. Humanity was more organized than ever, and their counterattacks were becoming increasingly lethal. Knox and her team worked through the night, pushing through exhaustion and uncertainty. The facility was filled with the sound of rapid keystrokes and the hum of machines as the final pieces of the plan were put into place. At the same time, resistance cells across the world executed their own missions designed to disrupt the alien forces in any way possible. Sabotage became their main tool, cutting off supply lines, ambushing convoys, and hijacking enemy tech. All the while, human ingenuity continued to surprise their alien invaders, who were growing more and more desperate to maintain control. The clock was ticking as the team finalized the modifications to their prototype, a powerful EMP device designed to transmit the destabilizing frequency directly into the heart of the alien fleet. But they weren't just aiming for a single ship, they were aiming for a chain reaction that would incapacitate the entire armada. The alien ships had no contingency for this kind of coordinated strike. They had thought humanity too primitive to ever understand such advanced technology, but they were wrong. As the device powered up and the signal was sent across space to the alien fleet, a deep, resonating hum filled the air. The signal echoed through the void. And then the first signs of success came within moments. The alien motherships in Earth's orbit began to falter, their systems sputtered and failed, their shields flickered, and then collapsed. Entire fleets lost communication with their command centers, and their weapons systems went dark. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens were vulnerable. But the battle was far from over. The aliens quickly realized what had happened, and their retaliatory response was swift and brutal. But humanity had already taken the first step toward victory, and there was no turning back now. The momentum had shifted. For the first time, Earth was on the verge of crippling the invaders once and for all. The moment the signal hit the alien fleet, chaos erupted in space. Alien warships, once proud and impervious, began to lose their cohesion. Shields dropped. Energy systems short-circuited. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens found themselves on the back foot. It wasn't just the technology failing. It was the unshakable confidence they had in their superiority that cracked. Alien commanders scrambled to regain control, sending frantic orders to their ships. But it was too late. The EMP had crippled their fleet, leaving them vulnerable to Earth's newly coordinated counteroffensive. On the ground, humanity's forces moved with a sense of purpose they had never felt before. The resistance, bolstered by the success of the sabotage, became more confident, more aggressive. The alien forces were retreating. But this time, Earth wasn't content to let them leave in peace. Human fighters, soldiers, civilians, engineers, and anyone willing to pick up a weapon moved in to exploit the opening, taking back territory faster than the invaders could respond. Major cities once claimed by the aliens began to fall back into human hands. The streets that had been deserted and under alien control were now filled with the sights and sounds of humanity's fight for freedom. Military units worked alongside civilian militias to clear out the remaining invaders, and the resistance forces executed the most well-coordinated operations humanity had ever seen. Cities that were barely recognizable after months of occupation were slowly being reclaimed and rebuilt by the people who had refused to give up. Yet, as humans celebrated their victories on the ground, the invaders' leaders knew the war was far from over. Their ships were disabled, their communications shattered, and their technology in disarray. But the Galactic Council had one final trump card. Their most advanced weapon, a force designed to quell even the most fierce resistance. In the heart of the alien fleet, the final preparations began. A massive war machine, unlike anything humanity had ever seen, was deployed. A weapon of immense destructive power that could decimate entire cities with a single blast. It was a last-ditch effort to break Earth's spirit, to remind them of the gap between human strength and alien might. But even as this weapon was launched into orbit, the Council could not ignore the overwhelming resistance they faced on the ground. Humanity had made its stand, and no matter how many ships the aliens sent, Earth would not go quietly. Dr. Evelyn Knox, still working in her lab, was not about to let the aliens have the final say. Her team had already begun analyzing the weapon's design and quickly deduced its weakness. The aliens may have had more advanced technology, but they were far from infallible. In a rush to end the war, they had left certain details unchecked, an opening humanity could exploit. Knox gathered a small team of experts, and they devised a daring plan to disable the alien superweapon before it could strike. Using a combination of hacked alien tech and the electromagnetic frequencies that had proven so effective before, they set off on a covert mission to infiltrate the alien control center. As night fell, they infiltrated a hidden alien base deep within enemy lines. The tension was unbearable as the team moved through the compound. Alien soldiers patrolled the corridors, unaware that they were walking straight into the heart of humanity's last hope. Time was running out, and the clock was ticking on Earth's survival. Nox and her team had no choice but to rely on their wits, their courage, and the knowledge that if they failed, the aliens would have a clear path to victory. In the final moments of the operation, Nox and her team were able to hack into the superweapon systems and send a disabling signal. With one last surge of energy, the massive alien weapon sputtered and died. The mission was a success. Earth had struck another devastating blow to the invaders. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Humanity had not only held its ground, but had just dealt the aliens a crippling defeat. The Galactic Council, facing growing dissent within their ranks, and a realization that their forces were no match for the determined resistance on Earth, began to reconsider their next move. For the first time in the entire war, the balance of power was tipping in favor of Earth. As the news of the destruction of the alien superweapon spread across Earth, there was an undeniable shift in the momentum of the war. The once impenetrable alien forces were now facing their own vulnerabilities. The Galactic Council, shaken by the unexpected resistance from a species they had written off as primitive, was in turmoil. Internal debates raged within the council chambers, with some factions calling for a swift retreat, while others demanded a more aggressive response, hoping to crush Earth's resolve once and for all. Despite the division among the alien leadership, one thing was certain. The invaders had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to fight back, and to unite in the face of impossible odds. The resistance was no longer an isolated force. It was a global movement. Every nation on Earth, regardless of past conflicts, was now working together toward a singular goal: to drive the alien invaders from their planet. The alien fleet, battered and disorganized, began to withdraw. But Earth wasn't ready to let them escape unchallenged. As the aliens regrouped and attempted to rebuild their forces, the human military, alongside the growing resistance, began coordinating massive counterattacks. Cities that had once been under siege were liberated one by one. Human soldiers, once on the defensive, now took the fight to the alien invaders with a new sense of purpose, utilizing tactics that were unpredictable and nearly impossible to counter. The enemy had relied on overwhelming force, advanced technology, and fear to conquer Earth. But now, they were dealing with an enemy that fought with something much more powerful: unity and the knowledge that their very survival depended on every action they took. Earth's fighters had become experts in guerrilla warfare, using the alien technology to their advantage while exploiting its weaknesses. Human ingenuity, once thought to be no match for the invaders' sophisticated weapons, had become the decisive factor in the battle. In the command centers of the Galactic Council, the pressure was mounting. The leaders who had once dismissed Earth as a meaningless, insignificant planet were now grappling with the reality of their impending defeat. Alien commanders sent urgent reports of their losses, describing the relentless attacks and growing human resistance. Yet, even in the face of these reports, some factions in the Council still held firm to the belief that they could force Earth into submission, using their superior weapons to crush humanity's will to fight. But there were dissenters within the Council, those who had begun to admire the strength of Earth's resolve. Alien ambassadors who had witnessed the courage and ingenuity of humanity began to question whether the conquest of Earth was worth the cost. They saw now that humanity, with all its flaws, was a species capable of growth, of resilience, and of fighting for what they believed in. This growing faction called for peace talks, proposing an end to the war, and offering humanity a place within the Galactic Council as equals. The debate grew heated, with both sides presenting compelling arguments. Some alien leaders feared that humanity would rise again if they were given the chance, while others argued that further destruction would only result in unnecessary casualties for both sides. But as the pressure mounted, one thing became clear. The longer the war dragged on, the more the Galactic Council was losing its grip on the situation. The invaders were losing, not just in terms of military might, but also in terms of their very credibility. Humanity had shown that they were not to be underestimated. On Earth, the resistance wasn't backing down. They had tasted victory, and they were determined to finish what they had started. Military leaders, once skeptical about the possibility of defeating the aliens, now spoke of a future where Earth would stand proud, not as a conquered world, but as a force to be reckoned with. Yet even as they prepared for what would come next, they knew that the hardest challenge was still ahead. The final push to rid the planet of the invaders once and for all. But now, they weren't fighting just for survival. They were fighting for their future, for their freedom, and for the right to determine their own destiny. And the aliens, for the first time, had to seriously consider the possibility that humanity might win this war. The tension between the two factions within the Galactic Council reached a boiling point. As the war dragged on, more and more alien leaders began to question the wisdom of continuing the conflict. The forces on Earth were not only resisting, they were thriving, using every tool at their disposal to break the invaders' hold. Alien commanders sent report after report detailing the growing losses, the unexpected human resilience, and the adaptive strategies humanity was using to turn the tide. But despite the mounting pressure, a faction of the Council remained adamant that victory could still be achieved. These were the hardliners, the ones who believed that Earth's resistance was nothing more than a temporary fluke, a rebellion that could be extinguished with the full force of the alien military. They advocated for an all-out assault, a devastating blow that would break humanity's spirit once and for all. It was their belief that Earth's fighters, though tenacious, would eventually buckle under the weight of their superior technology. While the Council debated, the war on Earth intensified. The alien retreat had become a full-scale withdrawal from many key cities, but they were not giving up entirely. Alien reinforcements were being deployed in small waves, bolstering the remaining forces. Humanity, though victorious in many areas, now faced the prospect of a final decisive push, a push that would decide whether they could maintain the momentum they had gained. Dr. Evelyn Knox, still working tirelessly with her team, had a chilling realization. The aliens weren't just retreating. They were regrouping to deploy a new, unimaginable weapon, one that was designed to annihilate entire populations in an instant. The reports of its construction had been intercepted by resistance spies, and the information sent shockwaves through humanity's leadership. This weapon, codenamed Annihilator, was rumored to have the power to destroy entire continents, a last-ditch effort by the Galactic Council to end the war with overwhelming force. If it were deployed, the consequences would be catastrophic. In response, the human leadership gathered in a secret war council. They knew they had to act fast, but the task was daunting. They needed to disable the Annihilator before it could be used. The resistance, still struggling to recover from the massive destruction already inflicted on their cities, now found themselves faced with the impossible: infiltrating the most heavily fortified alien installation on Earth and shutting down the weapon. The plan was risky. Knox, who had become a linchpin of humanity's technological resistance, proposed using the very same frequency system they had used to disable the alien fleet. If they could tap into the alien weapon's energy core, they might be able to disrupt its systems long enough to render it inert. But that would mean infiltrating the heart of the aliens' final stronghold, a facility deep within the mountains, guarded by the most elite of their forces. Only a small team of elite operatives would have any chance of getting close enough to disable it. As the team prepared for the mission, word of the Annihilator spread through human ranks. The anger that followed was palpable. It was no longer just about survival. It was about vengeance. The aliens had come to Earth to conquer, to subjugate, to destroy. And now, they had crossed a line that could never be undone. Humanity's resolve hardened. They would stop this weapon, or they would go down trying. The operation was set into motion. A select team of resistance fighters, including soldiers, engineers, and even civilians with specialized knowledge of alien technology, made their way toward the facility. The stakes were higher than ever. They knew the mission would be a one-way trip for most of them, and there were no guarantees. But the fate of the entire planet rested in their hands. Meanwhile, the alien leadership, still divided on the best course of action, finally made their move. The hardliners, having secured the launch of the Annihilator, prepared for its deployment, confident that it would break humanity's spirit once and for all. But they, too, were unaware that their greatest mistake was about to unfold, underestimating humanity's determination once more. The final mission had begun. The team of resistance fighters, a mix of hardened soldiers and brilliant minds, moved in the shadows, navigating through the treacherous alien facility deep in the mountains. They had learned the layout, scouted every possible entrance, and were prepared for the worst. This was their last shot. If they failed, the Annihilator would be unleashed, and Earth would face a destruction the likes of which it had never known. Dr. Evelyn Knox, who had been instrumental in deciphering alien technology, led the charge. Alongside her was Captain Alex Rios, a veteran of the guerrilla warfare that had become humanity's calling card, and Lieutenant Sarah Vasquez, an expert in alien infiltration tactics. They were joined by a team of technicians, demolitions experts, and 2 civilians who had proven their worth in combat. It was a tight-knit group, bound by a shared determination to protect their world. Each person knew the risks. Some might not return, but they had made peace with that. As they infiltrated the facility, the team encountered unexpected resistance. The aliens, now fully aware of the human threat, had stepped up security. Patrols were frequent, and the presence of advanced surveillance systems made every step more dangerous. Yet the humans were determined to push forward. They used the same guerrilla tactics that had turned the tide of the war, relying on speed, stealth, and surprise. Knox's mind raced as she worked alongside the technicians to hack into the facility's security grid. Every minute that passed felt like an eternity as the threat of discovery loomed. If they were caught, the mission would be compromised, and there would be no second chance. Finally, they reached the heart of the facility, the core chamber where the Annihilator was housed. The massive weapon, a towering construct of alien technology, hummed with a deadly energy. It was designed to release an energy pulse that could obliterate continents, its power drawn from an alien fusion reactor that was nearly impossible to disable without the proper knowledge. Knox immediately went to work, accessing the core's control system. The alien interface was complex, but she had studied their tech for months. She connected her portable device, scanning for weaknesses, and found the frequency modulator that powered the entire system. This was it, the critical vulnerability. If she could destabilize the reactor, the Annihilator would be rendered useless. But time was running out. The aliens were closing in. 30 seconds, Rios whispered, his voice tense but calm. The team had set up explosive charges to create a diversion in case the plan went awry. It was their final backup, but they didn't want to use it unless absolutely necessary. Knox worked faster, her hands moving in a blur. The room felt suffocating, and every sound seemed amplified. The pressure was overwhelming, but she blocked it out. She knew the stakes. This was no longer about just disabling the weapon. It was about saving everything. The world they had fought for, the future they had bled for, was on the line. Finally, her device emitted a soft beep, and the alien reactor powered down. The hum that had filled the room disappeared. The Annihilator was disabled, but the victory was short-lived. The facility's alarms began to blare, signaling the breach. The alien forces were closing in, and they would not let the humans escape without a fight. Knox's heart pounded as she looked at her team. They had succeeded, but now they had to make it out alive. Retreat, Rios barked. The team moved as one, running through the corridors, weaving through the complex. The aliens were right behind them, but the humans had the advantage of knowing the terrain. They had the element of surprise. As they neared the exit, the facility shook with an explosion. The backup charges had gone off, creating a chaotic diversion that allowed the team to break through the final barricades. They fought their way out, determination pushing them forward with every step. They could see the sky above, the bright light of Earth's atmosphere welcoming them back. Just as they reached the final exit, they were met by a squad of alien soldiers. The battle was fierce, but the resistance fought with everything they had. Knox, Rios, Vasquez, and the others fought like warriors who had nothing left to lose, knowing that their mission was a success. Their unity, their strength, their humanity, it was what had brought them here. With one final push, they cleared the last line of defense and emerged into the open. The alien forces were in disarray, retreating as their weapon, their last hope, had been neutralized. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. The Annihilator was no more. The invaders had lost their last, best weapon. The tides of the war had turned irrevocably in humanity's favor. The Galactic Council, now fully aware that their conquest of Earth was no longer possible, began to consider the unthinkable: peace with humanity. The invaders, once so sure of their superiority, now faced the prospect of a negotiated settlement. Earth had fought back, and they had won. Humanity's victory was not just one of military might. It was a victory of spirit, of unity, of the unshakable belief that they would not be conquered. Earth was no longer a planet under siege. It was a world that had fought and won its freedom.